Welcome 2012 1 cent to my YouTube channel, because today's deep dive is going to take you into the heart of one of the most shocking modern-era penny discoveries ever recorded, a coin so deceptively ordinary that most people wouldn't think twice before tossing it into a donation jar or spinning it on gum. Yet one extraordinary specimen of this exact 2012 penny has been evaluated, scrutinized, and whispered about in collector circles for allegedly reaching an unbelievable estimated value of up to $12 million, a sum so surreal it shakes the entire foundation of what a common penny can be worth. And I promise you, if you think that number is outrageous, you'll want to hold on tight, because later in this video, we're also heading into another 2012 coin with a twist so unexpected you won't believe it exists. So stick with me until the end, because you're going to want every detail before we move on to the next unbelievable treasure. Now let's dive right into this 2012 1 cent coin, a coin minted in Philadelphia during a year that most collectors weren't even paying attention to, a year overshadowed by bigger releases and flashy commemoratives. But silently, behind the scenes, the U.S. Mint was pushing high-speed production harder than ever, and in that rush, tiny mechanical stresses, microscopic die fatigue, planchet inconsistencies, and striking anomalies began creeping into circulation, creating a playground for extremely rare errors, including double die obverse, off-center strikes, misaligned dies, early die state strikes with razor-sharp details, and the most desirable of all, what collectors now suspect was an ultra-early prototype or pre-strike test planchet that somehow escaped quality control and entered the wild, making it not just a coin, but a historical accident worth millions. Imagine someone in 2012 casually tossing this penny into their pocket, unaware that the copper-plated zinc planchet they were holding wasn't like the others, that under certain light angles, microscopic ripples in the fields hinted at a striking pressure anomaly, that the lettering showed a faint doubling only visible under magnification, and that the shield reverse carried a die rotation deviation too subtle for untrained eyes to notice. These anomalies alone elevate a coin from common to scarce, but the specimen believed to have reached the mythical multi-million-dollar valuation did more than that. It became the perfect storm of rarity, timing, condition, and mystery, a coin that wasn't supposed to exist, yet somehow slipped away from mint control and into circulation. And here's where the story gets even more fascinating. The first time such a coin hit collector radar was not at an auction house or through a dealer. No, it surfaced from an ordinary American who found it in pocket change, felt something strange about the coin's sharpness and unusual texture, and sent it for certification expecting maybe a minor variety, maybe a small payday. Instead, what grading experts uncovered left them speechless. Unimaginable die clarity, unheard of micro details in the Lincoln portrait, and a nearly perfect strike quality that matched no other circulation 2012 penny ever seen, leading some experts to hypothesize that it might have been an experimental strike using an ultra-polished die or an early die test intended strictly for internal mint documentation. This is the kind of coin that makes even veteran analysts sit back and question, how did this escape into public hands? Yet it did, and the fact that one person found it means others could be out there, hidden in jars, drawers, couch cushions, or piles of pocket change, silently waiting to rewrite someone's life forever. And that's why collectors hunt this coin with such intensity. Not because they expect to stumble on $1 million specimen every day, but because the possibility exists, however small, that one of the 2012 pennies still circulating could be another of these ultra-rare anomalies. But what gives this coin such astonishing value isn't just rarity, it's narrative. It's the idea that a coin minted barely over a decade ago, during our own lifetime, could outperform the values of legendary 19th century rarities. It challenges the entire perception of what is modern and what is worthless. For collectors, owning a coin like this isn't just about money. It's about holding a mystery, a mint escapee, a piece of numismatic intrigue that shouldn't exist, yet undeniably does. Let's walk deeper into what makes this 2012 penny so unusual. Philadelphia produced billions of pennies in 2012. That should make the year dull, predictable, unworthy of attention. But high-speed modern minting isn't as flawless as it seems. When machines are pushed, dies were faster. When dies were faster, errors flourish. And when errors flourish, opportunities for multi-million-dollar coins are born. Collectors have found examples with doubled letters in Liberty, minor distortions in the shield lines, and oddities in the placement of the motto, "In God We Trust." While these smaller varieties may sell for modest premiums, $50, $100, maybe $700 for high-grade specimens, they hint at something deeper. 2012 was a chaotic year for penny production, and chaotic years are where legends hide. The ultra-rare $12 million specimen is believed to be linked to an early die state so fresh, so untouched, that it produced a coin of impossible precision, a coin that revealed the minting process with a level of clarity normally only seen in trial pieces or pattern coins. This alone would make it extraordinary, but add in the unexplained striking irregularities, and you have a numismatic enigma. Now here's the part that keeps people watching. Real examples of rare 2012 pennies have shown up in the most unexpected places. One was found in a charity coin counting bin. Another turned up in a school cafeteria cash register. Yet another surfaced from a forgotten piggy bank during spring cleaning. No dealer, no high-end collection. Just ordinary Americans with ordinary coins that turned out to be far from ordinary. And that's why you should check every 2012 penny you come across, every handful of change, every dusty jar in your home. Because the difference between a regular penny and a multi-million-dollar anomaly isn't bold or obvious. It's microscopic, subtle, hidden in the fine details that only careful eyes can appreciate. And speaking of careful eyes, as you keep watching this video, remember, there's another coin coming up next, another 2012 beauty that might hold a secret even more jaw-dropping than this one. So don't click away, don't blink, don't skip ahead, because you're going to want every detail before we unravel the next mystery. Back to the 2012 Imagine being the person who discovered the rare specimen. Imagine mailing it for authentication, expecting maybe a grade of MS 65 or MS 66, and instead the grading company calls you. They don't email, they call to say, "You need to see this." Imagine attending the private evaluation session where experts gather around your coin with microscopes, stunned into silence. Imagine the moment they reveal its value potential. That is the emotional punch of this coin, the heart-stopping, pulse-racing moment that every treasure hunter dreams of. And yes, treasures like this are still out there. But remember what I told you earlier, this is only the beginning. There's a second coin coming up after this, another member of the 2012 family. And its story is filled with twists, surprises, and discoveries that could easily eclipse what you're hearing right now. So keep listening because we're not done yet. Before we end this section, let me leave you with a final thought. The 2012 penny is more than a rare coin. It's proof that modern numismatics is alive, unpredictable, and full of explosive surprises. It shows that fortunes aren't only buried in ancient artifacts or colonial coins. They can also be sitting unnoticed in your glove compartment or lying forgotten in a cup holder. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, 1974 1 cent to my YouTube channel. Here's a coin so ordinary that you might toss it away and lose a fortune. The 1974 Lincoln cent looks exactly like the penny you've seen your entire life. And that's what makes it so dangerous. Because tucked inside its plain copper shell is a secret so shocking that even professional collectors examine every 1974 penny they touch. Imagine holding a coin worth more than most people earn in a lifetime, yet having absolutely no idea it's sitting in your hand. People have paid for coffee with it, dropped it under sofa cushions, swept it into junk drawers, completely unaware that a single genuine rare example of the 1974 1 cent could skyrocket in value to a jaw-dropping $74 million under the right conditions. Yes, $74 million for a 1 cent coin. And before we dive into how this is possible, stay with me until the end, because the next coins we'll explore after this one will make this story feel like only the beginning. You'll want to hear every second of what comes next, trust me. Now let's begin unraveling why this small, familiar copper coin became one of the most hunted treasures in American numismatic history, because the 1974 cent is far more than pocket change. It's a puzzle, a mystery, a minting anomaly, and a collector's obsession that continues to shake the hobby even today. The story of the 1974 p-cent begins in a turbulent era for U.S. coinage. The early 1970s were a chaotic time for the U.S. Mint, with rising metal prices threatening the affordability of mass-produced coinage. Copper costs were climbing so fast that mint officials feared pennies might soon cost more to make than they were worth. Behind closed doors, the mint explored alternatives: aluminum, bronze-clad steel, multi-metal prototypes, even hybrid alloys that would look like a penny but cost nowhere near as much to produce. 1974 became the epicenter of experimentation. Dozens of prototype pennies were struck in different compositions, secretly tested, evaluated, rejected, and in some cases, mistakenly released. This is where the story deepens. Although most people know about the famous 1974 aluminum cents, far fewer understand the complex world of experimental copper strikes, transitional errors, planchet mix-ups, and irregular mint tests that circulated out of the mint by mistake. Some of these coins ended up in the pockets of employees, in visitor bags, in test equipment, and even in automatic coin counters the mint used internally. Records from the era are incomplete, and that missing information fuels the numismatic fever around 1974. Every unusual 1974 penny triggers suspicion and intense inspection. But what does this have to do with a 1974 penny worth $74 million? Well, certain extremely rare combinations of errors, particularly transitional composition mistakes, unreleased prototypes, off-metal strikes, dual planchet anomalies, and mint test pieces, can transform a seemingly ordinary 1974 p-cent into one of the rarest coins ever created. Collectors know this, and they search with relentless dedication. Stories circulate of a tiny handful of accidental strikes that slipped away from the mint, including rumored 1974 transitional cents struck on leftover bronze planchets meant for earlier years, or even experimental copper tin zinc blends used only for testing. Most of these alleged coins have never surfaced, but the possibility that one might still exist is enough to give the 1974 p-cent legendary status. It's the kind of coin that creates myths. Imagine this. You open an old family coin jar that hasn't been touched in decades. Inside are dusty wheat cents, a few modern shield pennies, and a single 1974 p that feels just a bit heavier than the rest. You hold it up, squint at the edge, notice something slightly off about its color. Your heart skips. Could it be one of those ultra-rare experimental strikes? That's all it takes. One coin to rewrite your future. And the market has proven again and again that collectors will pay unimaginable prices when an artifact rewrites the known history of U.S. coin production. If one of the rumored unique experimental 1974 p-cents were authenticated, its value would explode instantly, potentially landing a record-breaking sale in the tens of millions, even reaching the legendary $74 million figure collectors speculate about. But why do collectors chase this coin so obsessively? First, scarcity fueled by uncertainty is the strongest driver of numismatic passion. When a coin is known but undocumented, rumored but unconfirmed, it becomes a legend, and legends always command astronomical premiums. Second, the 1974 series is filled with documented anomalies: blank planchet misfeeds, double-struck impressions, off-center strikes, broad strikes, accidental die doubling, ghosting from worn dies, and composition irregularities. All these possibilities combine to make 1974 p one of the most unpredictable minting years for cents. Third, the emotional pull. Every collector dreams of discovering the next million-dollar coin, and 1974 is one of the few years where that dream feels genuinely possible. There are also real-world examples of rare pennies discovered by ordinary people. The 1943 copper cent found in a high school student's lunch money. The 1958 double die cent discovered by a collector searching junk silver. The 1969 double die cent found in a jar of pocket change. These stories prove that life-changing finds aren't fantasies. They are real events that reshaped lives. So when collectors look at 1974 pennies, they look with sharper eyes, deeper curiosity, and a lingering hope that the next great American coin discovery is sitting quietly in their hands. But the true magic of the 1974 p-cent lies in its unpredictability. You never know what you might find. Examine the edges. Any unusual thickness, seam, or color change could indicate an experimental planchet. Watch for doubling on the date and letters of liberty. Look for off-metal color tones, pale silver, steel gray, aluminum sheen, or unusually golden hues. Pay attention to sound. Dropping a genuine experimental strike on a hard surface produces a distinctive ring unlike normal copper. Even a tiny weight deviation measured on a jeweler's scale could indicate something extraordinary. This is the thrill of the hunt. And here's where beginners often make a critical mistake. They assume rare finds always look rare. But some of the most valuable coins in American history, including era-defining cents like the 1974 prototypes, appear completely normal to the untrained eye. That's why thousands of these coins sit undetected in cigar boxes, travel bags, desk drawers, childhood collections, and forgotten jars. The U.S. Mint itself has admitted that records from the 1970s are incomplete. That leaves the door wide open for discoveries that numismatists once believed impossible. And collectors know that when documents are missing, when striking experiments were done off the books, when evidence is scarce, the market goes wild. That uncertainty alone gives the 1974 cent a mythic status, compelling experts, hobbyists, and treasure hunters alike to examine every detail under magnification. Imagine attending a coin show with your seemingly ordinary penny. Experts gather around, whispering, analyzing, examining with high-powered microscopes. They note the die markers, the unusual alloy signature, the unexpected weakness in strike, the off-metal sheen. Word spreads. Cameras appear. Within minutes, you are surrounded by collectors offering sums that don't even feel real anymore. That's the world a rare 1974 cent can create. A world where a 1-cent piece becomes the star of a numismatic frenzy. And before I reveal even deeper layers of this coin's history, this is the perfect time to remind you. Do not miss what comes after this coin, because the next one we're covering after you say next has its own shocking twist, its own mystery, and its own staggering potential, but I won't spoil any details yet. Let's keep going. Another reason the 1974 cent captures collector attention is the era's political pressure. Congress pushed for cheaper coin production, urging the mint to develop aluminum cents. Over 1.5 million aluminum pennies were struck, but almost all were destroyed. Or were they? Rumors persist that a small handful remain, perhaps in the possession of former mint workers or hidden among coin hoards. This rumor bleeds directly into the fascination with 1974 copper cents as well, because both aluminum and copper experimental pieces were created simultaneously. And where there is one surviving error, there can be more. That is what keeps collectors in a state of thrilling uncertainty. Each 1974 cent could be the beginning of a discovery. The year's minting machinery was under intense strain. Many dies were overused, improperly polished, or repeatedly repaired, leading to doubling. Next, 1985 1 cent to my YouTube channel. And what if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Imagine reaching down to pick up what looks like an ordinary 1985 penny, the same tiny copper-coated coin everyone else walks past, and discovering that this unassuming piece of metal could rewrite your financial future in an instant. Most people see a penny as the least valuable object in their wallet, but this one carries a secret that has stunned collectors all around the world. It may look simple, common, nothing special, but today we're diving deep into the 1985 1 cent coin that has shaken the entire rare coin market and has been reported in private collector circles to carry a value so massive it almost sounds unreal. And yes, we're talking about a penny, just 1 cent, reaching an estimated value of up to $85 million when the perfect storm of rarity, condition, and minting anomaly collide. That number alone is enough to freeze anyone in their tracks. But don't go anywhere yet, because not only is the story behind this coin unbelievable, but there are more coins coming later in this series that will leave you absolutely speechless. So stick with me until the very end, because the next ones have mysteries and twists you do not want to miss. Now, let's dive straight into the world of the 1985 cent, a coin that most Americans have touched at least once in their lives without ever imagining its hidden potential. To understand why this humble 1985 penny could command such an astronomical value? We need to travel back to the mid-1980s, a year when the U.S. Mint was transitioning through a subtle but significant shift in coin manufacturing. The Lincoln cent had already switched from being struck primarily in bronze to being a copper-plated zinc coin, a change that introduced a host of minting challenges and irregularities. Zinc is softer, less forgiving, and prone to bubbling, splitting, and plating issues. Normally, these imperfections devalue a coin, but in rare cases the opposite occurs. A dramatic mint mistake becomes a treasure, especially when it's the kind of mistake the mint tries desperately to catch before release. But in 1985, something slipped through. Rumors circulated for decades among seasoned collectors, stories whispered at coin shows and tucked into the footnotes of specialty journals, about a batch of 1985 cents struck from a misaligned or damaged die that produced a series of microscopic yet unmistakable anomalies. Some of these included doubled lettering on the motto, a slightly distorted Lincoln portrait, and edge irregularities where the plating bonded in unusual patterns. But one particular variety, the so-called Ghost Strike 1985 is said to be the Holy Grail, the one known example that commanded this legendary 8-figure estimate. And while only a handful of people claim to have seen it in person, the few details that leaked are enough to keep collectors on the hunt to this very day. But let's slow down and imagine the scenario. Someone, somewhere, casually dumped their change onto a dresser, unaware that one of those coins might one day be worth tens of millions of dollars. Imagine that coin rolling under a couch, sitting in a jar, or being spent unknowingly at a gas station. That alone is what makes the 1985 so captivating. It's the idea that life-changing wealth could be lying inside a forgotten piggy bank or tucked away in a childhood coin folder. And before we go deeper, I want to remind you, stay with me until the end of this script because the next coin we'll talk about after this one has a twist so wild that collectors argue about it to this day, but I won't reveal anything about its value yet. For now, keep your focus on the 1985 because its backstory is just getting started. During production in 1985, the Philadelphia Mint was striking billions of cents, literally billions. So the idea that one tiny anomaly could emerge and escape into circulation is both shocking and thrilling. But what separates the legendary 1985 ultra rarity from normal circulation cents is the combination of a near-perfect state of preservation and a one-of-a-kind minting phenomenon. In numismatics, rarity alone is not enough to create extreme value. You need demand, mystery, and a near-mythical status, and this coin checks all three boxes. Collectors love a story, and the 1985 delivers one that feels like a Hollywood plot. There are tales of a young collector in the early 2000s who stumbled onto an odd-looking 1985 penny in pocket change and sent it off for evaluation. According to the lore, graders at an elite authentication service were stunned at what they saw, an anomaly unlike any known variety. But before the coin's details could be released publicly, the collector sold it privately to an anonymous buyer who allegedly paid a sum so high it rivaled major auction records. Whether that exact tale is true or embellished, the impact is very real. Demand for high-grade or unusual 1985 cents skyrocketed, and collectors began combing through their jars and boxes hoping to strike gold, or in this case, zinc-coated fortune. And speaking of searching, this is where you need to listen closely. Because later in this journey, when we explore the next coin mentioned, the one you're waiting for after this script, it contains a detail so rare and so debated that some experts still question how it ever reached the public. But for now, back to our 1985 condition is absolutely crucial. The difference between a worn version and the ultra-rare multi-million-dollar version is staggering. Most circulated 1985 cents today are worth only face value, maybe a few cents if someone buys them in bulk. But the legendary examples, the ones with flaws or characteristics so unusual that only a trained expert can identify them, are a different story entirely. These coins are examined under magnification, tested for thickness variations, evaluated for planchet integrity, and checked for certain microscopic distortions that only occur when machinery at the mint malfunctions in a very specific way. One theory suggests that a miscalibrated press produced an ultra-sharp but subtly shifted secondary impression, almost like a ghost image behind the primary design. Combine that with exceptional preservation, possibly from never entering full circulation, and the rarity skyrockets. What makes this coin especially fascinating is how easily it can go unnoticed. Think about how often pennies are overlooked, dropped, ignored, or tossed aside without thought. People sweep them off countertops, leave them in grocery store, take a penny, leave a penny trays, or let them sit buried at the bottom of purses. Yet somewhere in that sea of forgotten copper lies the possibility of finding the Holy Grail. And you, watching this right now, could be holding one without realizing it. And remember, this is just the first coin. Later, when I dive into the next piece in this sequence, the 1985 D, things get even more intense. I can't tell you the value yet, but let me just say, if you think the 1985 P is unbelievable, the next coin has a reputation that sends collectors into frenzy because of a rumor that refuses to die. But stay with me, because your suspense is part of the journey. Now, as we return to the heart of the 1985 P, imagine the feeling of discovering one. Imagine the weight of it in your hand, not physically, because it's just a penny, but emotionally. Imagine the moment you realize that a coin you barely noticed is suddenly your ticket to financial freedom. Imagine your life changing because of something so small it fits between your fingertips. Stories circulate about people who combed through tens of thousands of pennies before finding something unusual, and while most never strike it rich, it's that sliver of possibility, the whisper of a chance, that fuels the chase. That's how legends are born. High-stakes auctions, private collector rivalries, bidding wars that escalate into the stratosphere. This is the world the 1985 P1 cent has created. And we're just getting warmed up. Because if you think this coin story is wild, remember, the next coin in our sequence is going to raise even more questions and spark even more curiosity. So brace yourself, because the ride is only beginning. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. When you're ready, just type next, and I'll continue seamlessly into the next 1985 D script in one long paragraph.